All right, well, welcome everybody for our first part of our Fierce Over 40 live discussion series featuring the amazing Laura Viale. I'm so excited to have you with us today, Laura. Laura is here's a little intro about Laura. Laura is a functional nutrition counselor and Ayurvedic lifestyle coach specializing in hormone balance for women in peri and post-menopause. She is the founder of Naturally Thriving Women's Health and the creator of the Thrive Method for Hormone Balance, a comprehensive program for women going through the phases of menopause. Laura has been in love with all things wellness since starting massage therapy school in 2001. So since entering the wellness industry over 20 years ago, Laura has studied various forms of massage therapy, Ayurveda, functional nutrition, and most recently, specialized functional tests that enhance her work in balancing hormones. Laura also co-owned a thriving wellness center for 10 years, where she and her staff of 10 had the honor of guiding countless clients in transforming their health and their lives using everything from massage, acupuncture, yoga, and most notably, food. On a personal level, she's been especially curious about the power of food and how it impacts our hormones, for better or worse, for decades. As a mother of very young children in her early 40s, Laura was dealing with symptoms like anxiety, digestive issues, insomnia, and acne. By then, she had a deep understanding of the innate power of the body to come to balance when we understand what the body is asking for. But she also learned every woman's body needs a unique approach. And this is what set her on her journey to bring herself to balance and teach other women to do the same. I love that. Between her extensive training and vast experience, both professionally and personally, Laura created a set of natural and effective strategies that, when implemented with the individual in mind, completely alter the internal environment of our bodies and allow our hormones to come to balance and our symptoms to fade. Now she works with women just like yourselves, experiencing symptoms like fatigue, anxiety, brain fog, heavy periods, hot flashes, mood swings, weight gain, insomnia, and night sweats, all those amazing symptoms. And helps them tune into their intuition, honor their bodies and minds, and bring their hormones to balance so they can get back to living happy, active lives, doing what you guys love. So welcome, Laura. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Oh my goodness, what a wealth of knowledge. I think everyone could say already that, based on just your introduction alone, we're like chomping at the bit to learn from you. So just to start, what are most people's misconceptions about menopause? The word carries such meaning, and I think most people have a stigma in their mind about what it means. So what do most people come to you with in terms of misconception?
Yeah, I mean, I think the big one is just women are dreading it. They're if they haven't been, if it's coming, they're dreading it, and it's just got such a negative reputation. And also that, it's something that we're meant to suffer with, and, that we just have to kind of buck up and take it. Maybe there's, something our doctors can do, but typically, I think the broader perspective is that it's not going to be fun, and that we just have to this is part of being a woman, is suffering through this phase of menopause. The other thing that I think is important to note is that a lot of women, again, this comes from, there's just a lack of education and good knowledge, quality information out there for women about what happens to the body, and during this transition phase that we all go through if we're lucky enough to live this long. So, and a lot of women think that, oh, menopause, that's hot flashes and maybe my periods will change or just go away. So when other symptoms come up that are associated with hormone imbalance, when we reach over 40, women don't realize that that's what's happening in their body, that there's a hormonal aspect to it. So I do think it's important to know that it's more than just hot flashes and period changes. So
Yeah. That really stuck with me when you said that, we're just expected to like buck up and suffer through it. And I feel like that's sort of one of the common beliefs about women's health in general, right? From the time we get our period for the first time when we're, younger, 8 to 12 to 14, all the way up to through menopause, we're just supposed to like deal with it. But you prove that there's another way, that we have tools at our disposal that can make it easier or more, integrate with our life more. What do you wish more women knew about this time in their life? Like maybe myths you want to bust through, or just ways they could make their own lives easier?
Yeah, I mean, so I think one thing that I'm super passionate about is just the resiliency of our bodies. So, getting older doesn't mean slowing down and needing to put up with aches and pains and all these things that, that are uncomfortable. You know, Ayurveda teaches that there's 3 phases in life. There's the growing, developing phase when we're young and we're literally growing up. And then, for a woman, around the time where she gets her period, it enters the second phase, according to Ayurveda. And it's the time in life where we're able to reproduce as a woman, and we're establishing ourselves and figuring out, our careers and following our ambitions and creating families and all of this. This would be the second phase. And then the timing really lines up with right around menopause, when we're not able to reproduce anymore. There's this third phase that is, kind of tossed aside, I think, in our culture, but really, this is a magical time. This is when we feel good. This is when we have an opportunity to share all of our life lessons over the decades, share our wisdom, share our special gifts that we've cultivated and are passionate about. Like this is our time to shine. Really, this third phase is kind of, we're done with all of the work, and now it's just time to kind of spread your light, so
I love how you light up when you talk about that phase, because it's so true. There's so much wisdom gathered. We're not trying to figure out who we are, or a lot of women tell me that they're not trying to play with anyone else's rules. Like, they get to decide who they are, what they stand for. And, sometimes there's a little bit more time if there are children at home, maybe they're getting older. And so you have time to maybe reinvest in yourself after you've cared for so many people for so long. And then you really help people tap into the energy that's still available and the feeling good in their bodies. And, a lot of people are curious, probably, who are listening to this, about Ayurveda and how it can help them. Can you tell us a little bit more about what it is, where it comes from, like how you got interested in it?
Yeah. So Ayurveda, in a very simple definition, is an ancient wellness system that was created in India over 5,000 years ago. And what I really love about it is how it really connects us and honors the fact that we are connected with nature and with our environment around us. So I feel like with the more traditional Western medicine that we're familiar with is very much about, the body and, from the skin in, right? But Ayurveda really, excuse me, really does honor this connection that we have with our environment. So I kind of love that about it, because when we understand the qualities so Ayurveda talks about qualities, they're called gunas, and these qualities can be found within our experiences of our body and our health, but it can also be found, these qualities can be found out in nature. So you can see them in the weather, you can see them in the seasons, you can see them in your pets, like even in conversations. Once you kind of see the qualities, it's one of those things, once you understand it and learn it, you don't unsee it. So it's a beautiful thing, and it also helps cultivate our intuition with our bodies. It just gives us another layer of understanding how we're built and how we're made and how we're designed to operate. So yeah, I don't know if that is a good answer.
Yeah, that is so cool. Can you give us an example of a gouda? Did I say it right?
Guna,
I feel
yeah.
like guna. I said the cheese. Guna.
The cheese, that's funny. Yeah, so super simple example. Say you're experiencing hot flashes. This is overly simplified, but so say you're experiencing hot flashes. This is a quality of heat, right? Of heat and warm. And so to balance that out, so imbalances are too much of something, right? So if we're getting hot flashes, that's too much heat in the body, and it's trying to escape. So in Ayurveda, we want that heat to be centered in the digestive system, actually. But for the purposes of this example, what we want to do to balance it out is incorporate cooling things. So we want to go with the opposite and incorporate in the cooling quality. So for foods, we would want to start eating things like, using mint, a nice cooling mint, right? We want to maybe have some cucumbers or some bitter greens. So, and then at the same time, also stay away from those warming foods and spices that would increase that. So like increases like, and then the opposite balances you out. So that's sort of an example.
That makes a lot of sense. The first thing that came to mind is on a recent conversation, you were talking about the seasons too, and how we're shifting into winter here in the Northeast. And so eating warming foods. So what happens if the season of your body conflicts with the season outside?
Yeah, I mean, in theory, that would be a good thing, because it would be it would balance it, right?
Okay.
If the outside influences, your body, so it may be helpful to have that. Like if you're in this example, hot flashes is too much heat, we go outside, it's freezing out, like that's actually recommended. So spend more time
That's
outside.
great.
So yes, so doing outside activities for someone who has too much heat is good. Someone who has too much heat in the summertime, it's recommended that you go swimming, like just do those cooling things. Water sports is really good. Skiing is really good in the wintertime for those hot, the overheating symptoms.
That's so fascinating. So it actually works together. And like you already started touching upon this, but like what are a few other simple tweaks that people can do to, whether they're going through hot flashes or not, but little tweaks that they can do to listen to their bodies, tune into their intuition, and make their nutrition start to work for them, so feel better.
Yeah, I mean, so, generally that sort of concept of using the opposites is a good idea. Sometimes it's not as obvious, which is, why working with an expert is good, but a couple of like simple things, and this is sort of more than just Ayurveda, but, simple things is we want to make sure that we are loading ourselves up with as many nutrients as we can. So if you think about it, the cells of your body, if we talk about our health all the way down to the cellular level, the only food or nutrients they're getting is by what you're putting in. Like they don't magically get healthy. Like you have to feed them, right? So
What? Yeah. Incredible.
if you think about that, it's like, oh, like you know, that whole old saying, like you are what you eat. So it is really important to when you're planning your meals and composing what's on your plate, you want to make it as nutrient dense as possible. So what does that look like? Colorful, fresh veggies. So we know from functional medicine that the colors in vegetables are the nutrients or represent the variety of nutrients. So the more colors you have on the plate and the brighter they are, the more nutrient dense
Oh,
your
wow.
meal is going to be. And then the Ayurvedic spin on that is sort of this. I just had this conversation with my parents this week or last week. This concept of fresh versus frozen or leftovers or whatever. Which, by the way, I do eat leftovers and I do incorporate some frozen veggies. But I want you to think about it from the energy of fresh, alive food. So Ayurveda talks about prana, this life force. So if you think about your produce, you want it to be fresh, not just because of the nutrient content in there, but because of the energy in that food, right? So if you think about a carrot, if you have a carrot that's fresh, it's rigid, right? It's fresh, it's crisp, it crunches.
Yeah.
But if you let that carrot kind of sit on the counter for a day or two, it like turns all floppy and rubbery, which is
Yeah.
right. So it's losing its prana. So will you get nutrients if you eat that carrot? Still, absolutely. But it's that sort of energy that we want to bring to our food. So fresh is best. Next best would probably be frozen. And you know, and so on. So that's another sort of spin on like not only get those nutrients, but have that energy that we want.
That is so funny. It's like you saw in my fridge. I actually brought old carrots to snack on today, and they look very sad. And I was like, well, these carrots are calling out to me as something nutritious, but
Yes.
it's so true that, and we don't really think about, how they age in the refrigerator, or on the counter, but when you have them fresh, they just have so much more to offer. Is that's what
Yeah.
you're saying?
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, I will eat those carrots today.
Mhm.
Now, I love how you light up when you're talking about this. Obviously, you've had experience for a long time working with other people, but when you first started seeing the benefits in your life firsthand from making those tweaks, what was that like from an internal perspective for you, Laura? Like on your own journey when you started paying attention to this, like what did it feel like?
I mean, it was kind of amazing. It was kind of amazing. So I didn't really know what I was doing when I was starting my own health journey. I knew that I didn't feel good. I knew that I had all these symptoms that I didn't want anymore. And I also knew that food was really powerful because I had um, you know, I had some food sensitivities since a teenager. Um, and I was able to understand what they were and realized how much better I felt when I stayed away from those foods. So I kind of like that was already in there. So I decided, so I had all these, addictions maybe to like carbs and sugar mainly.
Delicious.
So,
Yes.
yep, delicious. But I had a really hard time with even the idea that maybe I should cut back or eliminate these foods. So, so my journey took a while because I had to get over that mental thing. But I will tell you that what really, I don't know the words, inspired me, what surprised me was that when I I mean, I had this voice in my head. It was my intuition. It was telling me that I needed to get gluten under control. Like I was like a 3, 4, 5 times a day gluten girl at the time. And I had this intuitive hit that really needs to stop. So I did an experiment with myself, and I cut it out. Actually, not even completely, but I cut way, 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 way back for about 6 weeks. And at some point, I realized that all of these symptoms, not all of them, but most of the symptoms that I had experienced were either gone or almost gone. And
Wow.
so I was kind of going for, maybe it'll help my skin because I had adult acne. And so vanity, if I'm being perfectly honest, that was my main motivation.
Hey,
But
that's fair.
yeah, so I realized though, I was like, wait a minute, I would stay up, not on purpose, but I was so anxious that I would cry myself to sleep every night. I was
Mm,
so worried about my children for no reason. They were not sick, they were not in any harm. I
wow.
just had this crazy level of anxiety that I didn't even realize was anxiety until it was gone. And then I was like, oh, that wasn't normal. And that was the thing that really, um, really shook me, was realizing after cutting that food out. And I'm not saying that this is going to be true for everybody. Like that was what my body needed, was to kind of cut back on that. But I couldn't believe when I was like, wait, I haven't had those thoughts in weeks.
Wow.
And it was just like, there's
Wow.
something to this. So not only is there something to this in terms of the particular food that I was sensitive to in multiple ways, but I realized how powerful our intuition is. And I
Hmm.
believe that women have a particularly strong intuition when we tune into it, when we cultivate it. And especially when it comes to our bodies. I can't tell you how many times I've heard my clients or other women share their stories about how they just know something's not right. And maybe the tests all come back normal. Oh, yeah, there's nothing wrong.
Right.
So just
We all love that.
perimenopause. Yeah, perimenopause, you're just going to have to deal with it, but don't worry, everything's fine on your labs. No, like if you know that something's off and something's not right, find someone else who will help you. And there are, lots of things. That's my favorite thing, is to, help you figure it out. And there's lots of ways to do that. So
That's
yeah,
amazing.
your
I
intuition.
had that experience with my intuition with alcohol. Actually, I'm 10 months sober from not drinking alcohol, and
Yeah.
I just had this feeling, thank you, of like it's making me really anxious and unhappy, and I don't like the way it feels. And when I stopped drinking and I had enough time for my body to recover, I was like, wow, I'm happier. I feel more clear-headed. And guys who are listening, like, don't feel like we're like, don't have sugar, gluten, or alcohol. Like,
Right.
still enjoy the things, but just pay attention to how things make you feel, both in your body and your mind, and maybe listen to your intuition. I mean, I know I love cupcakes, but I feel different after I've had a cupcake, feel the sugar coursing through my veins.
Yeah.
So when
Yeah.
you think about nutrition too, because this touches upon something that a lot of people have associations with the word nutrition, and it's a
Mhm.
trigger word for people, around weight loss and diet
Mhm.
culture, and it just like brings up so much. But you're talking about how it makes you feel mentally, how the food that we put into our body affects us, not just on the scale or in the mirror, which really isn't even the goal. It's just to feel good living your life. So how do you reframe that for people so that they can kind of get away from that place of self-judgment and all that baggage that they might have with the word, so they can use it for themselves.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's just about taking your power back. It's,
Yes.
I mean, and I know this because um, sugar had a particularly powerful hold over me. I mean, the things that I did around sugar were crazy. Like I would think about it all day long. I would think about whether I needed to go make a separate trip on my way home from work to make sure I had some kind of dessert for myself. I would hide it. I would sneak it. Like, what? So,
That sounds
um,
familiar.
yeah, I mean, it was, a- and I remember doing my very first 5-day cleanse when there was no sugar. No sugar was one of the, eliminations that we did in that cleanse. And I remember at the end just feeling kind of annoyed and irritated,
Yes. So
frustrated.
angry.
Yeah, kind of like, I just want my sugar back, man. This is like, all right, I get it. Like, you know, I get it. I did the thing, like, now give me my sugar. And I can't believe how far I've come. I really can't. But the best part about it is not the way my body looks, it's the way I feel and the freedom that I have, so that I can now, first of all, I don't think about sugar all the time anymore. If I want it, I have it. I don't need to, I got rid of that story about how, oh, I can only have one bite because of, if I, or I can't just have one bite, because if I do, then I have to have the whole box or the whole sleeve of cookies or the whatever it is, the whole jar of whatever fluff. That was one for me. Um, really, and now that is a story that I was giving my power away to a food, and it
Mm,
wasn't fun. And now to be able to have the freedom to, if I feel like having a cookie, I will have a cookie. But really, for the most part, I don't, because I choose feeling awesome. That
mm,
makes me feel powerful. And so I just, yeah, I kind of just disrupted that whole silly story I was telling myself. Um,
yes.
and it doesn't have a hold over me anymore.
Yeah, when you disrupt it, you have to do that sort of exclusion that you were talking about, so that you can get that perspective from whatever it is that's making you feel bad, whether it's gluten, or
Mhm.
maybe you have acid reflux or heartburn, or like something, so that you can have that distance from it. It's like
Yeah.
a relationship that you need to take a break from, and then you realize how good you feel without talking to that person.
Yes.
And
Yes.
and then
Yes.
you can introduce it back in a little bit, invite it over for tea, maybe
Yeah,
once a month.
exactly. That's funny. Yes, exactly. Yeah. It's-
Now, I love how you talked about taking your power back. So how does this all relate to confidence? Because, when you listen to your intuition and you start to take your power back, you get more confident and people start
Mhm.
to notice shifts in you. What are some things you've noticed about yourself, your clients, when they, become more confident, just as a byproduct, but as an amazing byproduct of this?
Yeah, I mean, it's really what I say is that I believe that we all have some kind of special gift, something that we're passionate about, something that we're meant to do and to offer, to our community. And when we don't feel well, it it just dims that light. So, you know, all that yeah, all that passion and all that motivation and all that excitement that we're supposed to be, thriving in, it does get dimmed when you don't feel good in your body. So, we can't put ourselves out there and shine with confidence when we're uncomfortable and we're feeling bloated or achy or, have period problems, because that just completely refocuses our attention, right?
Yeah.
And we can't like show up, in our full light when we're anxious and worried and stressed, and we can't share that wisdom and the life lessons that I talked about earlier, when we're so tired and exhausted all the time. So
Yes.
um, yeah, it's just when what really inspires me to do this work, is that when you do take care of yourself and you honor yourself and your body and you heal it from the inside out, you can go out there, go out there with confidence, and happiness and excitement, because you're feeling so strong and energetic and confident. And yeah, I have seen that transformation in my clients. It's super cool.
That's so neat. Do you think you notice it first or do they notice it first? Like, sometimes you don't have that perspective
Mhm.
on yourself until someone else points it out.
Yeah. Like I think that a little bit of both, but I can see that um they're excited again. You know what I mean? They're kind of amazed at what their bodies just overcame,
Yeah.
and that's the fun part, is when they're like, wow, like it worked. Like, yes, because your body's incredible and it's resilient. And when you honor it, that that's the reward. It's so awesome.
Yeah, I think a big part of this too is about reestablishing trust with your body. If you're someone who's had chronic illness or just has really struggled to feel good in your own body, when you make
Mhm.
these changes, it's almost like redeveloping the relationship with your body and trusting it again to be able to support you. And maybe for the first time you're supporting it. It is like a relationship, right? Like you change how you relate to yourself.
Yeah, it definitely is. It is like a relationship. Yeah. Um, and I think, we often think of it as like a separate thing. But it's not. And when you connect, and engage with it and work with your body, it's just a whole different experience. Um, and you
Mhm.
can, you can pick up on the nuances of feeling off and correct that subtle imbalance much quicker and easier than if we ignore it and we push through it. And then it doesn't just go away, guys. It builds on itself, and your body will get louder and louder, and the symptoms will
Mhm.
get more and more intense. So, learning to recognize the messages, the way that your body communicates with you, um, is huge. It's just a huge, step in building that relationship with your body. Yeah.
Yes, that is so exciting because when you see yourself through a different lens, I'm a photographer, so I
Mhm.
I literally help people see themselves through my lens and then reestablish their relationship with themselves from the outside in sometimes. But they first have to be willing to see themselves differently. It has to be an acknowledgement, like I'm ready to stand in my power. I'm ready to see myself or be open to the possibility. And I imagine that you have to be ready to try something different, in terms of food and give it time
Mhm.
and space for your body to recalibrate. It's all goes back to mindset, right? And being open to the possibility of solutions.
Yes. Oh my God. I love how you just said that. That was beautiful.
Thank you. It's something I've been thinking about a lot. And, you can see yourself in a number of different ways, but I always tell people to, when they look at their photos, especially if they've been particularly vocal as a harsh critic, to see themselves through the eyes of a friend. And when you think about nourishing your body, think about how you would feed your children, right? Like how you would want them to feel. And really know that you deserve to feel good too, just as a
Yeah.
child or someone else that you're taking care of deserves to feel good and be healthy. Like you deserve that too. Um, and so I thought this would be a great time to open it up for some Q&A from our audience that we have joining us live. And if you guys have any more questions, you can drop them in the chat. But so far, we have, are there foods, spices, beverages that we can incorporate in our lives to help our bodies?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd like to say, just as a general answer, whole foods is what your body understands what to do with. So that's that's going to look like your produce. Um, it's going to look like your whole grains. It's going to look like healthy fats that are from plants, except for ghee. Ghee is very good for you. That's clarified butter for those who don't know what ghee is. Um, High quality proteins from healthy animals if you eat animals, or plant sources. So, and then the same with spices. So the thing with all of this is what's going to be balancing for you might not be the same exact thing for somebody else. So things like ginger is incredibly helpful for most people. That is a really good one as a general recommendation for many things. It's good to help your body detox. It's good for your digestion.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great antioxidant. There's a huge good for your immune system. There's a big list. So yeah, ginger is one of those. I guess that's more of an herb than a spice, but
I've been loading up on ginger this cold season. I had
yeah,
my pureed ginger hot drink this morning and then ginger tea at night.
yeah,
It's just such a great all around
it is.
magical
It
herb.
really, yeah.
What is it?
Well, I said that, I'm like, maybe it is a spice because you do grind the dry out the root and grind it up so yeah, I guess it's more of a spice. I'm just thinking I buy the roots
Yeah.
because I use fresh ginger a lot too. So
Mm-hmm.
anyway, yeah, so yes, I mean, food is medicine. So all of them, when they're fresh, when they're when we look at a jar of tomato sauce, for example, I don't know why that just popped into my head. I'm a label reader. I read the ingredients on everything. I even had to ask a woman like a couple of weeks ago to read the ingredients for me because because it was too small and my eyes are getting old. But I would not buy that little jar because I know that a lot of times they put sugar into things like tomato sauce and salsa.
Yes.
And if
Yes.
I'm going to have my sugar, I want it to be in like a cookie or ice cream. I don't
Right.
want it snuck into my savory foods. That's not fair.
Not fun.
Yeah. So I'm a label reader. So yeah. So you want to make sure that you know what's in your food. What are you eating? The easiest way to do that is cook yourself. Use healthy oils are super important. Incorporating those healthy fats. Your hormones are built. The sort of building blocks of hormones are fats. So that's really important to incorporate in. You just want to have high quality foods in general. And then when I work with my clients, I can get more specific and nuanced based on what their imbalances are, what their nutritional deficiencies
Mm-hmm.
are, and all of that stuff. But does that answer your question, Sharon?
While she's taking a moment to respond, are there things people should stay away from in general? Like things that, we talked about sugar and gluten, depending on the person. Are there things that, people might be consuming without considering or having a misconception about how it affects their bodies or their hormones in particular?
Yeah. So yeah, what I've seen, what is, I teach this, but it's not just me. There's lots of evidence out there that the three probably biggest hormone disruptors out there are sugar, gluten, and dairy. So what I tell my clients is that if you're coming to me and you're suffering and you're feeling horrible because you have whatever the symptoms are, because your body's out of balance, um, you know, getting those out of the system for a temporary amount of time to allow your body to, come back to balance is a good idea. It may or may not be something that you have to, cut out forever. I think most people can have small amounts here and there without issue. But in that initial, if you're struggling and whether it's exhausted or you have hot flashes coming all the time or you can't sleep or you're super anxious, whatever it is that's going on with you, those three foods can be super disruptive. So finding a way to cut back on those is likely going to make a difference.
And now I've heard to do it. Is it best to do it one at a time or all at once and then reintroduce them slowly? Like with different exclusion diets, I know there's different schools of thought so that you can see what it is instead of all three.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of do a case by case basis with that whole thing. Some people are ready to just do all of it at once, and then you would sort of if you're interested in how you feel with one thing or another, you could reintroduce them one at a time. And then other people aren't ready for that, so we just go slow and cut back gradually. So yeah, I do work with people on where they're at and help them with bulking up on those nutrients that we need for balance and support of the hormones, and then cutting back on the ones that we know disrupt them.
Now, this is like a sort of a controversial topic, perhaps, but what are your thoughts on those like cleanses, like a juice cleanse, as we're talking about the exclusion diets for a while, and now there's rules against it, but these celebrities were, hawking these like juice cleanses and just, I heard so many mixed things about how it could affect people's health. What are your thoughts on, of course, case by case basis, but overall, like as a hard reset, what are your thoughts?
I mean, that's not how I do it. I like to do more of I guess a gentle cleanse.
Yes, sounds nice.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's kind of hard for me to say because I think they're all slightly different, and I'm sure that there's benefits to them in some way. I can speak more to like the way I like to do cleanses, which is more, unlimited calories, eat as much, again, whole foods that are supportive of the systems in the body that support hormone balance, staying hydrated and all of that. I do, as part of my cleanses, just maybe ironically, I kind of stay away from literally from juice because
yeah,
the reason is and this might not be true of all juices, but generally speaking, fruit juices in particular are a little rough on the body because they don't have the rest of the fruit with all that fiber to slow down the glucose going into the blood. So it's kind of like just having a bunch of sugar. So I don't let my, well, at home anyway, I don't let my kids have like orange juice, which it's just it's unnecessarily sugary. Where like, I mean, this morning I'm like, here's an orange, have an orange.
right. The whole food.
Yeah, exactly. The whole thing is what your body is meant to eat. Yeah. And that's general advice. So there's some benefits here and there to juices and juicing and veggie juices, are probably better because the sugar content is lower. But
Right,
yeah,
right. And there's
so
ways to get the fiber in with different things. But
yeah.
yeah, it popped into my head. I was like, ooh, let's get Laura's hot take on. Um, we have another question that just came in about, do you have any advice on dealing with situations, whether travel or social situations, where people don't understand why you are declining sugar, gluten, alcohol, etc. Especially poignant, when you're visiting people or they're hosting you.
Yeah. That's such a good question, and it's such a good topic. I feel like we could do a whole thing on that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's hard. I think that's a whole journey in itself, because really what it comes down to is, are you trying to please other people, or are you doing what's best for you?
Mhm.
And going back to kind of like standing up for yourself, um, which I had a super hard time doing in the beginning. When I was doing this stuff, I knew I felt really good, but I didn't want to be that person who had this whole long conversation with the waiter, like, is this gluten free, is this, can we cut the dairy out of this? Like, I didn't want to be that person.
Right.
But then, first of all, that's their job.
Yep.
Second of all, like, who am I like, I'm my health comes first. It should come first. And
Yes.
so I gradually got more comfortable having those conversations and asking for what I needed, for restaurants. Um, then, for social settings, that's tricky too, right? Because, again, maybe someone would be offended if you don't eat their thing. Um, and I guess that the sort of brutal, honest truth about that is that that's kind of their issues. It's not
Right.
it's not your problem. And I know that that sounds hard as a people pleaser, for sure. But that's really the truth of it, is like, you're honoring your health and your body, and by making the choices that you make. And gosh, isn't it sad if someone wouldn't respect that and actually applaud you for it, you know?
Right. And you don't owe anyone an explanation either. Like, I found that when I gave up alcohol, if people were like, "Oh, well, why not?" I'm like, "I just don't feel good. It doesn't make me feel good."
And that's the really only reason that is necessary. I
Yeah.
don't feel good, and guess what? I deserve to feel good just like anyone else, you know?
Yes.
And yeah, so I mean, gosh, things to say. I think that what Lindsay said is perfect, It's just like, I just don't feel good when I have that. That's
Hmm.
it. It's not a dig against them at all.
And I think a lot of people take like their reactions, like you said, Laura, will be their stuff, their thing. Just to put it out there, if people do react like defensively, it's
Mhm.
because you're a mirror to them. Like, you standing in your power, unfortunately for some people, will threaten them, and it will cause them to see what maybe they're not doing to stand up for themselves. But again, that's not your responsibility. And so if this happens all the time with alcohol, people start defending their choices to me, and I'm like, I really don't, it's that's your business. Like, I'm not judging you.
Right.
What you want to do is awesome for you.
Yeah.
But people feel the need to yeah, just because they do have a mirror that's being held up to them, and so it challenges them in a different way. So just being aware of that, and sort of, like my mom said, be a duck, let it go off your back, let the water just go off your back, and that's their stuff.
Yeah. Right,
and,
right. And I just
and
want to acknowledge that that's so hard.
yeah.
It's so hard, because you want to make everyone, nobody wants to make someone else feel uncomfortable. Nobody does. So yeah, I just want to it's hard.
It's true. And more people are asking about dietary restrictions, as someone mentioned in the chat, when they invite you to their home or host a party. And I think that's so great because we all just want to feel good and you want your guests to feel good. So that's really important. So I'm excited for you all to take what you've learned from our time together with Laura and go out and, hopefully make some choices that help you feel better and stand in your power, whatever way that means to you, especially if you are experiencing peri or post-menopause, or if you're in it. Wait, what is perimenopause? That's premenopause, is that right?
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked that, Lindsay. That is another thing that there's no information about out in the world, and so all these words are being thrown around, and it's confusing. So here's the scoop, everybody. Menopause is really just one day, and the day of menopause marks the 12-month anniversary of your last period. So everything before that is perimenopause. So that's like a 10-ish year transition, because this is meant to be a gradual transition. It's not meant to be this like big jolt of like, crazy symptoms and immediate stop of your hormones. It's meant to be gradual in a good way so that it can be more smooth. So if it's not a smooth experience, that's when okay, my body's in transition. It's talking to me. It's sending me messages that it needs help. So that's all perimenopause. And then everything after that day of menopause is postmenopause. And then if we're talking about some of these symptoms of hormone imbalance before the age of 40, and again, this perimenopause can start in your late 30s, possibly early 40s. That's typically when it is. But I think medically, if you're experiencing symptoms of hormone imbalance before the age of 40, then it could be, there could be other stuff going on. And again, that's all correctable too. So.
Well, I'm so glad I asked about that term clarification, because that's mind-blowing. There you go. Learning things all along the way. So I hope that no matter where you are in your journey, with your body, with your relationship with your body, with, learning how to listen to your intuition, I hope that some of Laura's tips that she shared with us and the truths that she's dropped can help you stand in your confidence a little bit more. And I will say that we here at the studio are launching a project to help women feel fierce over 40 and stand in their confidence. So I'll follow up with you guys about that, but it's all about redefining what it means to be in this stage of your life. Like Laura was saying, there's so much goodness to offer, and we don't need to accept society's script about what it means to be women over 40, 50, 60. You can redefine what it means for you and surprise everybody, even yourself. I already see it every day. So many of my clients come in and they're like, I didn't expect to feel this way, but I, have a whole new outlook, a whole new stage. Like you said, Laura, like, life doesn't end when you reach a certain age. It can really just transform you with the proper tools and mindset, right?
Yay. Yes. I love it.
Well, thank you all. And I will make sure that, Laura, will you share with us where people can find you so that people can, get in touch when they want to learn more?
Yeah, sure. So you can go to my website, which is www.naturallythriving.health. And I also have a Facebook group community, which you can find through my website, or if you search Facebook communities for natural solutions to thriving in menopause, then you'll find me there as well. And I'm
so much good content there. So much good content. Laura shares so much goodness in that group. There's always something to learn. What were you going to say?
I was just gonna say I'm on Instagram too. I think that is naturally thriving with Laura. That's all.
Well, thank you for helping us thrive today. And we will talk more again soon. And you guys can reach out to Laura if you have any follow-ups or want to work with her one-on-one. I'm sure it would be transformative.
It would be amazing. And thank you so much, Lindsay, for this opportunity to share what I'm so passionate about. I so appreciate it.
Thank you. All right. Bye, everybody. Have a great rest of your day and see you later.